Life has never been busier. With technological advances, life is supposed to get easier, less stressful, and provide more free time. Not so much. For many people, a lack of time is a primary complaint as we lead busy, hectic lives that commonly involve going to work or school, raising kids, paying bills, running a household, and so on. And with all this mayhem going on, it's not surprising that many people struggle with feelings of stress and anxiety that can often feel overwhelming. Hi everyone, I'm Trevor Sullivan of Sullivan Associates Clinical Psychology. And today's video topic is 7 essential strategies for calming an anxious mind. This is part 1 of a 2-part video. Before we get started, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. And if you're watching on YouTube, click the alert notification. That way, when we release more videos, you'll get notified. So we all know life is busy. And the primary goal for most of us, if we can't do much less in our daily lives, is to attempt to relax and enjoy the process as much as possible. As you're aware, this is no easy task. And to compound matters, we're all doing this with a 200,000-year-old brain. Why does that matter? Because the human brain's primary mission isn't to keep you calm or cool under pressure while we lead full busy lives. Instead, the brain's focused on keeping us safe. And to be fair, it's done a pretty darn good job of that for the last 100,000 years as we continue to evolve as the Homo sapiens species. Now for the downside. For the last 50,000 years, there have been no saber-toothed tigers to consistently outrun, and there are far fewer physical threats to contend with. And of course, that's a good thing. But now the brain's focused on keeping us safe from a myriad of other things that aren't life-threatening, such as financial difficulties, relationship issues, economic concerns, your child's well-being, and even more rudimentary things such as the number of likes your last Facebook post received. Not surprisingly, with life being busier and more complex than ever, we're now more stressed and anxious than at any other time in human history. There's good news though. You have the most powerful computer on planet Earth between your ears, completely at your disposal. You just need to get better at taking command of it and directing it to do what you want. In today's video, we're going to look at 4 ways to do just that, and in part 2, we'll follow up with 3 more. But for today, the first strategy I'll discuss to help calm an anxious mind is the importance of changing your physiology. It might seem a bit strange that I spent the entire introduction of this video talking about the mind, only to have my first point be about the body. But here's why. When we feel stressed, anxious, overwhelmed, etc., the quickest way to change that experience is to change your physiology. And here are 3 ways to go about doing that. First, I encourage you to focus on changing how you breathe with the goal of breathing more deeply. When we feel stressed or anxious, we usually settle into a pattern of taking shallow breaths from high in the chest, which interferes with our ability to achieve a greater sense of peace and calm. So the first step in changing this pattern is to take slow, deep breaths from the abdomen. One easy way to weave this into your day is to simply make a point of checking in with your breathing periodically and taking a few deep breaths just to settle your nervous system. If you'd like a more dramatic effect, you try engaging in a 5-5-5 breathing pattern. This involves breathing in for a 5 count, holding your breath for a 5 count, and then exhaling for a 5 count. Repeat this pattern 10 times and it'll help to lower your heart rate and blood pressure and create a greater sense of calm. Second, I encourage you to try muscle relaxation. There are many different muscle relaxation techniques, but I'll briefly describe 2 of the more common ones here. First, there's autogenic training. This breathing technique involves lying or even sitting in a comfortable position and listening to a relaxing audio recording such as sounds of nature, ocean waves, etc. The goal of this form of muscle relaxation is to breathe comfortably and mentally focus on creating a sense of relaxation in each individual body part as you scan your body from head to toe. The nice thing about this type of muscle relaxation is that it's easy to do in most places. It can even be done in as little as 5 minutes when you have some spare time. Another popular form of muscle relaxation I suggest trying is progressive muscle relaxation. With this technique, you tense and release different muscle groups as you complete a body scan from head to toe. The goal of this exercise is to notice the difference between what a tense muscle feels like and what a relaxed muscle feels like. As you practice this technique and improve the mind-muscle connection, you become better at noticing when a muscle group becomes tense during the course of your day. When this happens, the goal is to shift your focus and recall what a relaxed muscle feels like. so you can command your muscle to relax. If you wish to try progressive muscle relaxation, it's a good technique to utilize for 5 to 10 minutes before going to bed, as it's important to lay down when learning this technique. And the final way to change your physiology that I'm going to discuss is exercise. And when I say exercise, simply put, just get moving. Recent research shows that even low-intensity exercise, such as walking, can notably reduce feelings of anxiety. So finding excuses to engage in extra movement during the course of the day, such as taking a short walk during your lunch or spending a few minutes jumping on a trampoline with your child, would be helpful. If you want to experience an even stronger benefit from exercise, like many things in life, the more effort you put out, the better result you get. A 2004 study by Dr. Richard Cox and colleagues examined the impact of aerobic exercise intensity on state anxiety. And what they found is that the study participants who exercised for 20 minutes at 80% of maximal oxygen uptake, also known as VO2 max, experienced sharper declines in anxiety than those who exercised at 60% of maximal oxygen uptake. The other important finding in this study is that there was a reduction in state anxiety for both exercise groups at 30, 60, and 90 minutes post-exercise. So a takeaway message is to get moving whenever possible. Now on to my second strategy for calming an anxious mind, and this strategy involves using the right self-talk. There's always some sort of dialogue going on in your head. Thoughts about what you plan to do, questions you ask yourself, automatic thoughts that just pop up, and so on. Your job is to get good at recognizing what you're thinking about and identify if you want to continue exploring that train of thoughts or change the channel in your mind to something else. When you feel anxious and stressed, there are two different types of self-talk I recommend. First, there's relaxing self-talk. What we say to ourselves has a profound effect on how we feel. For example, let's say you're having a particularly busy, stressful day and it's beginning to feel overwhelming. And let's say your self-talk resembles one of these examples. I can't stand this. There's so much to do, I can't get it all done. Or, why does life have to be this busy? Or, why am I not getting any help? Or, I can't do all this. I don't know how much longer I can take it. As you can probably imagine, engaging this type of self-talk is like adding gasoline to a fire. The only thing you're likely to get is a nice cortisol and adrenaline bath that's going to lead to stronger feelings of anxiety. And in contrast, let's say you tried something a little more calming, such as, I need to calm down. I can handle this. I always do. Or, none of this is really an emergency. I just need to slow down and breathe a little. Or, life won't always be this busy. There might even come a day when I don't feel busy enough. Not surprisingly, the second examples, which incorporate relaxing self-talk, are much more likely to reduce feelings of stress and anxiety and help you feel less overwhelmed. So I encourage you to practice using relaxing self-talk during the course of the day when you find yourself feeling stressed and pressured. As you practice this skill, you'll ultimately come up with the best self-talk statements that create a sense of peace and calm for you. Now, the second type of self-talk I'd suggest utilizing is evidence-based self-talk. For starters, we all get automatic anxiety-provoking thoughts. What are those? Thoughts that pop in your mind and warn you of potential danger. When these thoughts show up, it's our job to evaluate them, decide if there's potential danger in our future, or if the brain's simply getting overwhelmed with trying to protect us. So how do we evaluate thoughts? Essentially, it's all about asking ourselves questions. And the mantra we typically want to follow is, to the best of my knowledge, what does the evidence tell me? After asking this question, we want to dig a little further with a few more follow-up questions, such as, what's the % chance of this thought or situation I fear happening? What is most likely to happen? What's the worst thing that can happen and can I handle it? These are important questions to ask, because if you find there's a little merit to your anxiety-provoking thoughts, examining the evidence is going to help to create a sense of calm. This skill will become particularly effective for you as you develop the habit of challenging your thoughts with evidence. However, if after examining the evidence, there's still plenty of evidence-based reasons to be worried, that's important to know too. It just means that some action needs to be taken to handle this issue. In this case, stress and anxiety are doing their job by bringing this issue to your attention. Now it's your job to use evidence and logic to take appropriate action to solve or effectively cope with the problem, so you can return to a state of peace and calm. For my third strategy to help calm an anxious mind, I encourage you to make problems the correct size. You've probably heard the saying that there are no guarantees in life except for death and taxes. I think that's pretty safe to say. We can also add problems to that list as well. A life without problems is, well, it's been said that the only people without problems live in graveyards. So our job is to recognize problems and worries quickly, make them the correct size, and assign the appropriate amount of worry. And of course, the appropriate self-talk. Typically, most problems and worries are given too much significance, which leads to more intense feelings of stress and anxiety. Generally speaking, most problems in life are small and don't pose a significant threat to our livelihood. And small is the amount of attention and worry they deserve. In our quest to keep problems the correct size, we want to watch out for one particular thought pattern: catastrophizing. So what is catastrophizing? Catastrophizing is a way of thinking that leads us to believe that something is far worse than it actually is. What can make this thought pattern particularly damaging, besides the feeling of stress and anxiety it creates, is that we're likely to avoid things that we need to do because we expect them to be too painful. A good example of this would be doing your taxes. The longer you put it off, the bigger the task appears to become. A narrative forms in your head about how big, onerous, and painful this task will be, until you do it and realize it wasn't that bad. Once the task is done, you typically don't wonder why you put it off for so long and why you put yourself through so much stress avoiding the task. And that's just one negative aspect of catastrophizing, not to mention the damage it can do to your mood. But fortunately, there's ways to deal with catastrophizing. A 2005 study by Dr. Carrie Morwedge and colleagues explored how to contain the negative effects of catastrophizing. The study had participants split into two groups, with each group being asked to imagine their reaction to future negative events. One group was asked to recall their worst experience. The other group was asked just to recall a bad experience. The researchers discovered that the group who imagined their worst possible experience made more moderate predictions about future negative emotional impact of an event when compared to the other group. This is good news, as people typically experience the negative emotions they predict for themselves. And in this case, the group who recalled their worst possible experiences predict that the negative outcome wouldn't be that bad, because that was their experience when it happened. So the valuable takeaway from this study is that the best way to deal with catastrophizing is simply to imagine the worst thing that's happened to you in a similar situation. Typically, things rarely turn out as badly as we think they will. And the very rare instances where things may have turned out quite badly, you handled it. I know this because you're still here and watching this video. And for my fourth and final strategy for today's video, about calming an anxious mind, I encourage you to weave mindfulness into the course of your day. Despite being popular in the Eastern world for centuries, it's only recently that mindfulness meditation has gained traction in the Western world. And it has in a big way. And I'm not referring to all the media coverage and articles on the internet. I'm talking about the studies that have shown people practicing mindfulness meditation have demonstrated improvements in areas such as mood, concentration, compassion, cognition, and anxiety, just to name a few. For instance, in a 2016 study by Dr. Elizabeth Hogue and colleagues, the researchers discovered that mindfulness helped decrease anxiety by decreasing the body's inflammatory system, while also causing a notable reduction in stress hormone levels. So there are clear physiological changes occurring, and not just simply a feeling of well-being that's being captured on a self-report measure. Another added benefit of mindfulness is you don't need to do it for very long in order to enjoy the benefits. In a 2013 study by Dr. Fidel Zaidan and colleagues, the researchers found that 4 20-minute mindfulness meditation classes reduced anxiety by up to 39%. So I assume all of you are going to go run out and take a mindfulness class now, right? Okay, maybe not. And I suspect most of you aren't going to commit 20 straight minutes to mindfulness. However, if you can commit to using 5 minutes of mindfulness at least once a day, research shows that it can still be effective. That's why this tip is called weaving mindfulness into your day. So I encourage you to think about where it could fit into your day. For instance, it could be used at lunchtime, on a coffee break, or for 5 minutes before you step into the mayhem of your household. And when utilizing this technique, there are 4 key steps, which I'll go over quickly here. First, it's important to relax the body. Start by getting into a comfortable position, such as sitting up straight or lying down. Mindfulness can even be practiced while moving if you find it too difficult to remain stationary. As long as you're comfortable, pretty much any position is fair game. Next, remember to breathe comfortably. It's important to engage in slow, deep breathing from the abdomen when practicing mindfulness. You don't need to follow a breathing schedule, but do your best to take full, natural breaths. Third, avoid engaging with your thoughts. This is one time when you don't want to address your thoughts, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. This should be the closest thing to a timeout you get from your thoughts while you're awake, as all thoughts are to be treated like thought bubbles, harmlessly floating by, not to be judged or engaged. And fourth, find something to focus on. With mindfulness, you'll want to focus your attention. Once again, there's a choice here. You can focus on your breathing, a beautiful view, or even the feeling of your feet touching the ground. And while doing this, expect your mind to wander. In a recent study by the Microsoft Corporation, it was found that the human attention span has dropped to 8 seconds. To put that into perspective, a goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds. Yes, you heard that correctly. So needless to say, expect your mind to wander. Your job is to recognize when this happens, gently refocus your attention instead of becoming frustrated. So I'm going to wrap up today's video here, but I'll be back with 3 more strategies to help calm an anxious mind in part 2 of this video. But to provide a quick recap, the first strategy for calming an anxious mind is to change your physiology, which will help interrupt the pattern of shallow breathing and tight muscles. And 3 of the best ways to do this are to take slower, deeper breaths, use a form of muscle relaxation such as autogenic training or progressive muscle relaxation, and prioritize exercise. With all these strategies, even doing a little bit during the course of your day can be beneficial. Second, it's important to use the right self-talk. One key form of self-talk is relaxing self-talk, which can help calm the mind instead of filling the mind with more anxiety-provoking thoughts. And the second key type is evidence-based self-talk. With this form of self-talk, you'll challenge anxious thoughts by looking at the evidence to the best of your knowledge. Doing this will help logic prevail when coping with anxious thoughts, which will help keep you more calm. Next, I encourage you to make problems the correct size. Your brain's job is to keep you safe, not to keep you calm. Because of this, there's a tendency to make problems bigger than they deserve to be. So be mindful of catching anxious thoughts quickly, making them the correct size, assigning them the appropriate amount of worry, and develop a plan to cope with the thought. And for my fourth and final strategy for today's video, I encourage you to weave mindfulness into your day. Mindfulness has proven physiological effects on calming the mind and body. It's also been shown to be effective even in small doses. So consider weaving mindfulness into different parts of your day. It's a very versatile technique that can be used whether sitting, standing, lying down, or even moving. So I hope you found these strategies helpful for calming an anxious mind. If you did, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel by clicking the subscribe button below. And if you ring the bell, you'll be notified the next time we release a video. And of course, feel free to like and share the video as well as leave a comment. If you're experiencing challenges implementing the steps in this video, please contact us at Sullivan Associates Clinical Psychology. Thank you for watching, and be sure to watch part 2 of my video topic, 7 Essential Strategies for Calming an Anxious Mind.